This is the part in the program where I feel like I'm going to get some really angry, more specifically Philadelphia Eagles fans. Not just angry NFL fans, people with takes and like to cling on to those takes, but more specifically, the people in Philly. I am just out on the Philadelphia Eagles this year. This is a team with a lot of star power. A very star power, top-heavy team. A good offensive line, good wide receivers. I think I'm still on the Jalen Hurts boat. But last year, you had the issues of the secondary not being able to cover anyone. And now you're asking rookies to come in and really hunker down on that secondary when there is a real learning curve to cornerbacks and safeties in the NFL, especially in their first year. It doesn't matter how awesome they are. They still get got in a lot of scenarios because it's just a learning curve in the NFL. I wasn't a fan of the Saquon Barkley trade. Saquon Barkley and DeAndre Swift, look at their statistics. They're roughly the same player. And giving a bag of money to a running back always leads to some sort of disaster cap-wise. It's normally a cap casualty. So when you combine the defense, I'm still not sure about this year, and I didn't love the Saquon Barkley signing, I would have allocated that money to the back end of the defense and not a trophy that is a running back that could potentially get injured. We know Saquon Barkley has had some injury concerns in the past. And then finally, I see this report that last year Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts just didn't click. A disconnect in their relationship. I read it in the New York Times basically saying Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni, they just don't mesh well. Two completely different personalities. And this is the part where I'll praise Jalen Hurts and just simply go after the incompetence that is Nick Sirianni. Jalen Hurts is an adult. Jalen Hurts makes it really easy to root for him. I think he throws the ball better than people give him credit for. He is a real dual threat quarterback, potentially one of the best in the NFL. He is a stocky kid, tough, hard to bring down. I love Jalen Hurts. Now, are there some deficiencies in his play? Yeah, he's not Patrick Mahomes. Yeah, he's not Josh Allen. Yeah, he's not Joe Burrow. So I'm not going to hold that entirely against him. I think he's an awesome quarterback. I think they paid him the fair amount of market value. Jalen Hurts, the one reason why I'm in on Jalen Hurts still, and why last year's down season doesn't super shake me any which way, is very plainly this. He had an injury last year. The knee injury is a real thing for a quarterback, especially when you're a dual threat guy like Jalen Hurts is. It's tough to be able to get your legs moving when your knee is jacked up. The offense wasn't the same it had used to be. He had really missed Shane Steichen. But even more than any of that, I am in on Jalen Hurts because I watched him in the Super Bowl outplay Patrick Mahomes. Yes, the Chiefs won that Super Bowl, but for 3.5 quarters, Jalen Hurts outplayed Patrick Mahomes. So this isn't the Jalen Hurts hate video. I think he's a fine quarterback, a very good quarterback. My issue is with Nick Sirianni. He's a man-child. He is emotive. He's emotional. And when you have a real disconnect between the quarterback and the head coach, that almost always spills disaster in regular seasons. And this team, in the Philadelphia Eagles, Nick Sirianni, Jalen Hurts, those are the head of your snake. And when I believe Nick Sirianni, or as I believe in Jalen Hurts, I just don't believe in Nick Sirianni. And the fact that the two leaders of the team, the head coach and Jalen Hurts, there was a disconnect last year, which was very plain to see, very easy to see. I don't know what you want me to say. Jalen Hurts is an adult, and he's a good quarterback. I like Jalen Hurts. Nick Sirianni's a man-child. He's emotional. He does things that I would never want my head coach to do. Cursing out Chiefs fans on the way out. Doing things in the Super Bowl last year where Jalen Hurts has to calm him down, basically saying, yeah, let's not do that. When Nick Sirianni showed his hand last year into being a buffoon of a head coach that was clearly propped up by Jonathan Gannon and Shane Steichen, the head coach of the Arizona Cardinals and the head coach of the Indianapolis Colts, he showed his hand. He is who he is. He was propped up by two superior coordinators, two superior head coaches, two guys that were just waiting for other teams to give them their opportunity. I'm in Arizona. I cover the Cardinals. Jonathan Gannon is a home run, and potentially even more of a home run than Jonathan Gannon, simply because he's an offensive guy. Shane Steichen. Shane Steichen, what he did with the Indianapolis Colts last year, deserved Coach of the Year, even though he didn't win it. And so when I see that the Eagles, and more specifically Jalen Hurts, the two heads of the snake, Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni, there was a disconnect last year that was palpable. You could see it. Nick Sirianni being an emotional man-child at times, going after Kansas City Chiefs fans, doing strange things, gesturing at the Super Bowl, and Jalen Hurts has to be the adult in the room. That's an issue. Compounding that with the Saquon Barkley signing that, look at the statistics, DeAndre Swift and Saquon Barkley were mostly the same player. Certainly, Saquon Barkley not worth the amount of money he got over DeAndre Swift when they could have just re-signed him and had virtually the same guy for less money. And not allocating the exorbitant amount of money that you spent on Saquon Barkley, which the running game was not an issue last year. Not using that money on the cornerback position and instead the running back position was just pure insanity. Asking for two rookies to come in and shore up your defense on the secondary side of the ball. That is a recipe for disaster. There's a learning curve in the NFL for secondary players, and more notably, cornerbacks. I'm just out on the Philadelphia Eagles this year. Last year was a debacle. And then when you take out Jason Kelce, when you put in the Saquon Barkley signing that I believe made no sense, when you had DeAndre Swift there, and statistically, they were roughly the same player, and you were paying DeAndre Swift half the money and not using that money that you had and you paid to Saquon Barkley to allocate to your cornerback and secondary, and instead throwing rookies at it and praying they don't hit a rookie learning curve that most defensive backs hit in their first year in the NFL. Compounding that with the disconnect that is being reported between Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni, and my eyes showing me that Nick Sirianni was propped up by Jonathan Gannon and Shane Steichen, the two superb coordinators for the Eagles that went and got head coaching jobs. This Eagles team, with all the talent they have, they just feel a little dysfunctional. Will they make the playoffs? Maybe. They might. They have a lot of talent, and the talent just might get them there on its own. That's what happened last year. The talent just got them there. A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, Jalen Hurts, DeAndre Swift, an elite offensive line, a pretty good pass rush. They should have got there. They might get there again this year because they have a lot of talent. But this team is not a true Super Bowl contender. And I wouldn't be surprised if they miss the playoffs as a whole next year. This team could be the surprise disappointment in the NFL because of all of their talent that they have. I just believe some of it is in the wrong places, and the disconnect between Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts is real, and I'm not so sure how you can recover from that without bringing in a whole new head coach.